welcome to the January Street Studios tutorial series. My name is Eric Safford, and in lesson 3, we are converting music notation, also known as sheet music, to a rhythm grid pattern in the piano roll of BandLab. This is non-pitched rhythms on the sheet music, but we will use this as a simple template to get us started before adding pitches as well. Of course, we will want to start a new file in the DAW studio. Then split screen. So you can have your music on one side and your studio on the other. And if I were you, I would slightly adjust it a little bit so you have more on the studio side. We're going to start by giving this one a new title. So instead of new project, we're going to call this lesson 3. Then press enter and then save. Next, we will go to add track. And for this, we'll go to the virtual instruments. When you click on this, it pops up with a piano keyboard down at the bottom. We're not going to use this one yet. Instead, we're going to see where it says instrument that's highlighted, and then FX effects, and then click on MIDI editor down at the bottom. When you click on MIDI editor, it's going to pop up with the keyboard in a vertical way. And then we'll have a grid filling the rest of that space. And it may be on this arrow. If it's on the arrow, click on this key right here that says turn on note insert mode. And so we can edit this. Now what we're going to do is we're going to put the sheet music from this page here to the music, the piano roll, on the DAW. One thing we need to look out for first is what this looks like up at the top for our measures. As you can see, this has 1, 1.2, 1.3, 1.4, 2, and so on. This is actually saying this is measure 1, beat 1, measure 1, beat 2, measure 1, beat 3, measure 1, beat 4. It's a little confusing because we're going to be using only whole notes, half notes, and quarter notes. We're going to do this right here and zoom out until those no longer say 1.1 or 1.2, 1.3, 1.4, and until we get only 4 spaces between. Looks like that got it right there. So now you can see there's 1 space, 2 space, 3 space, 4 spaces. Each space is a single count, a beat. Measure 2, measure 3, measure 4, measure 5. This is important to set up correctly because we want to make sure that our grid pattern matches the same rhythm grid we've been using. And the rhythm grid we've been using so far is a 1 count per square. So let's keep it going. We're going to click save again. Save often because rarely do these actually save on their own. And when it says project saved, you should be good. Now we're only going to do a few of these examples, enough to get an idea about this. So the first one here is line number 1. It's in 4/4 time, which means there's 4 beats per measure. There are 1, 2, 3, 4 measures. So we'll be using 1, 2, 3, and 4, filling up to the end of that to go to 5. And we see here that we have a whole note. If it's round, it makes a sound. This one gets 4 counts. And so we're just going to choose one of these. I'm going to choose this where the C5 is. I'm going to click, and that's it. When I release, it'll give me a bar here. and it's colored in, just like if we do if it's round, it makes a sound. If it makes a sound, we color it in. But we see that it's only one count. Because this is only one count, we need to extend it to go 4 counts. So we will put our mouse on the very edge of this one until it changes shape there from the pencil to the arrows. We will click and hold and then drag this all the way to the end of measure 1, which is also the beginning of measure 2. We see that the second measure is a whole rest. And so we'll actually go through here. We do not put anything for rests. It is silence. So we will not color in anything here. Measure 3 is another whole note. So again, we'll click on the first beat. And this time, because we've already inserted one for 4 counts, it will automatically go to 4 counts. And then the fourth measure is a whole rest, which gets 4 counts of this as well. And that's it. We are done for line number 1. It should match this: whole note, whole rest, whole note, whole rest, which we have here. 4 counts of sound, 4 counts of silence, 4 counts of sound, 4 counts of silence. We'll go now to line number 2. Line number 2 uses half notes and half rests. We cannot start in measure 4 because measure 4 is actually this one here, which is a rest. We'll start in measure 5. This one, if we click on here again, it starts with 4 beats, just like we had the whole notes before, but we need only 2 beats on this, 2 counts. So again, we're going to adjust the length of this by putting our pencil on the end of this one and moving it, clicking it and moving it to the left until it is only 2 squares long. And we do need to move this down. There's a slider here, or you can do shift and use your mouse wheel. Measure 5 is the first measure of here. We're looking for 1, 2, 3, 4 measures of this. So it'll be 5, 6, 7, and 8 that we're putting in on this one. And we also see that this one here is 2 counts. Then we have 2 counts of silence. We have the same thing here, 2 counts of sound, 2 counts of silence. So we can just click on this. We automatically get the 2 counts of sound. There's 2 counts of silence following it. Same thing for measure 3. 2 counts of sound, 4, 2 counts of sound, and then silence. So it should look like this: 1, 2, 3, 4 measures of 2 counts each, of 2 counts of sound and 2 counts of silence. Now, even though we're going vertical on this music here, our piano roll only goes horizontal from side to side. Sheet music will go horizontal from side to side until you get to the end. Then you go down to the next line, just like you're reading a book, go to the end. Next line, go to the end. And you keep going all the way down to the bottom of the page. Then you go to the next page if there's another page. The piano roll does not do that, the MIDI editor. So what we're going to do is we're just going to keep going side to side. It's very important to keep up with which measure is which on here. We're going to go down to line number 4. Line number 4 is half note in the first measure, so 2 counts each. Measure 2, 3, and 4 are the same. So again, we're going to click on the first count right here of measure 9. It should automatically fill in for 2 counts. We now have another 2 counts we need to put in for sound. We've put that on count 3, the third grid on here, the third square. Measure 2 is the same way. Fill in on the first square of measure 10. We have 1, 2 counts. Put on count 3. Keep going. Third measure, measure 11. 2 counts there, and 2 counts there. And we'll slide it down a little bit. Measure 12 will also be measure 4 on this one. 2 counts and 2 counts. So we see this is all connected on this one, just like it looks like it is on here. This is what it looks like with sound. This is what it looks like with sheet music. The next one we're going to go to is line number 6. Line number 6 is slightly different because it's 2 quarter notes and then 2 quarter rests. In our rhythm grids that we did on paper, we colored a different color in for each quarter note. This one is slightly different. So we're going to click on the first square of 13. And then we're going to adjust it to just be 1 square instead of 2. because your default before was 2 squares. And we see that it automatically only takes up that. And if I click another one on count 2 right here, then you can see that there's a line separating between it, and which means that we're pressing the piano key down again. You also see that there's 2 counts of rest here, and we don't have to change anything on here. Then we go to measure 2 of this, which we also measure 14 in our piano roll. And again, we get 2 quarter notes, so we'll put 2 quarter notes there. Go to measure 3 of line 6. Again, it's the same thing. The rest is slightly different, but again, it's 2 counts of rest, as this was 2 counts of rest. So we go to measure number 15. And again, our quarter notes are here. And we'll need to slide this down a little bit. So we have 1, 2, 3 measures. 1, 2, 3. We need one more measure. Again, we'll put this one on the first and second count. So when we look at this rhythm right here, 2 quarter notes with 2 beats of silence. Here we have 1 beat, or 1 square, followed by 2 counts of silence. Again, same thing, quarter note, 2 squares of silence. And we should have it set up perfectly with this. The next one we're going to do is line number 8. On line number 8, they are all quarter notes. 1, 2, 3, 4 measures of this. So we're going to scroll this down a little bit so we can start at measure number 17. And the thing with this one is we have to click each square like this. And by clicking on each square like this, we are just putting in quarter notes all the way through. 1, 2, 3, 4 measures of it. 1, 2, 3, 4 measures of quarter notes in line number 8. We're going to do something slightly different on the next one. Line number 20. Line number 20 has mixed rhythms. We have whole notes, half rests, and half notes, and it happens twice. So on line 20, we're going to put this in measure 21. Whole note gets 4 counts. 4 counts of sound. So we'll have to click and drag that, make it 4 counts of sound. On measure 2, we have 2 counts of silence, starting on count 1 and 2. Count 3 and 4 is a half note, so it's 2 counts of sound. So here's measure 22 on here, which is the same one here. 1 count, 2 counts of silence, then a half note. Oh, something's gone wrong with this. So we're going to have to adjust this one too. Make sure you have this here. So the rest is shown on count 1 and 2, and sound on count 3 and 4. Then on count 1 of measure 3, we will again need to drag that one over. Make a whole note for 4 counts. And then measure 24 on our piano roll. So we measure 4 of line 20. Again, we start with a half rest. So we go to a half note, so we can click this one. And then slide that down. We start on count 3 and continue through count 4. Line 21 is similar as a mixed rhythm. It has quarter notes, half rest, and whole notes. And it's basically the same thing twice here too. So let's start this one. We'll start with clicking on the first square, count 1. And you see this is a quarter note, so it only gets 1 count. We cannot leave this held out for 2 because it would sound like a half note instead. Then we grab that edge of it and we slide it down to only be 1 count. Then we put another quarter note in count 2. Count 3 and 4 are rest, so we will keep these silent. Count 1 of the next measure is a whole note, which gets 4 counts. So that whole measure is full of sound. We're going to go down to the next measure, which is a quarter note and another quarter note, just like here. So if we click on this, it's going to be a whole note. We have to re-slide it to edit this. And now we're on the last measure of line 21, a whole note again. And so we slide this all the way down because there's count 3 and 4 is a silent rest here. We cannot put anything in the silent rest. And the last one we're going to do is line number 22. The half note quarter notes, and it's the same thing each measure, 1/2 note and 2 quarter notes. So we're going to do something slightly different on this one. Because it's easier to do all the same notes all at the same time, we are going to click on the first one, slide that down to be 2 counts long. And we know that the second measure is also going to start with the same thing. The third measure start with the same half note, and the fourth measure start with the same half note. Now we have the half notes placed in our 1, 2, 3, 4 measures. And we need to place our quarter notes. We place this one, slide it in. And we have all the quarter notes filling in. Because there are no rests in line number 22, there's always sound. When you finish, you can click X on the close input panel. And let's make this large again all the way to the beginning. And you see here, it goes all the way through and keeps going. You should have sounds going all the way to the end of measure 32, which is the beginning of measure 33. So it should go all the way to that beginning of measure 33. If you don't, you probably made a mistake in one of the rests, so go back and check those. Make sure this is the beginning, and let's listen to it. Okay, so it sounds like we matched the rhythms that were being played on those lines. Now, one thing that could happen too, you need to go back and change something. You can always go back to MIDI editor, or if you've already clicked out of that and this is not highlighted, you can still click on MIDI editor, or you could click on the piano right here and then click on MIDI editor. And you still see your measures on here. If for some reason you put something somewhere else where it shouldn't have been, or it's not on the same line, it's okay. It's not the end of the world with this. We'll be doing something more complex like that later on. You don't need to learn to make a melody with this yet or to change the pitches. We're just focused on getting the correct rhythms into this section here. All right, that is it for this lesson. Make sure you click save. And make sure your title is on lesson 3. And then you can X out of this one. And we're done with this one. Looking forward to next time. Join us for lesson 4 when we start looking at inputting MIDI keyboard and this piano keyboard on the screen using the keys for these. See you next time.